Hello and welcome back to Tech Week TV, brought to you by Callaghan Innovation. My name is Jake Miller. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unfiltered. We're here in the very busy AUT environment today, as we can hear in the background, and I'm very honoured to be joined by Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean for the Faculty of Design and Creative Technologies, Dr. Guy Littlefair. So firstly, Guy, thank you so much for hosting us here today. It's such a beautiful space, and it's such a great place to be able to bring Tech Week TV to life, with AUT being such a technology forward-focused university.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Jake. It's a privilege to have you guys on campus, but also an opportunity for us to, show to the world what we've got and what we do.
Absolutely. And today we're going to talk more about, how students are being empowered to make a positive impact in the future workplace, because the future of work is such a major topic. The workplace is changing rapidly with, innovative technologies all around the world making waves. So, what is AUT's philosophy on educating students that will have a positive contribution to future workplaces?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Our overall mission as a university is about great graduates. So we really stand behind all of our developments, all of our initiatives, all of our work really to generate graduates that can go out and do really great things. And that crosses over all sorts of things. It crosses over into the fact we have a very modern and progressive curricula. We have some fantastic learning spaces, and we really pride ourselves on the fact that many of our programs are, certainly our professionally based programs, are about sort of practice-based education. So that is when a student comes here in day one of their course, their undergraduate course, they really start to behave and operate and behave as if they were actually a practitioner, as if they were out in the industry as an architect or a lawyer or someone in business or an engineer. And I think really that's a differentiator in the sector for us.
Okay, yeah. And how are you adapting to keep up with the pace of change as it relates to the future of work?
It's tough. It's tough, eh? The future really is changing so rapidly. I think one of the things that we're mindful of is that the skill base that was the traditional way of teaching, so that is the delivery of skills to a student, has now shifted more to actually enabling students to learn on the job, learn as they go along, and try and anticipate what some of the big changes in the future are going to be. The world's not standing still. When I think about an undergraduate coming in, they're here for 3 or 4 years before they graduate.
Yes.
Those skills that they might get on day one are going to be out of date before they even graduate.
Exactly.
So we've got to concentrate on a different type of education, a different philosophy to education, one that's designed really around innovation, creativity and design, so that they can really forge their own direction. So in actual fact, they can drive the future for the nation and for the globe. Really.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the challenges that education globally faces, is exactly what we talk about, the pace of change, the fact that the world is changing so fast, and obviously the time it takes to invent new curriculums and put them in place. By the time that happens, things can change in this crazy VUCA world we live in. So how do you think about that and ensure that the curriculum you're teaching across every sector is as relevant to 2019 as possible?
Yeah. Again, it is a real challenge, and I was sort of reflecting on something similar just the other day. The faculty that I'm responsible for, it's called Design and Creative Technologies. It's the biggest faculty here at AUT, and in terms of the schools and the disciplines we have engineering, computer science, mathematical sciences, as well as art, design and communication studies. So it's a real melting pot of ideas and technologies and approaches to education. When I was thinking about how do I articulate what the faculty stands for and what do we do and what are our graduates going to do, I actually started to think, well, perhaps we're the disruptors. Perhaps my faculty and our graduates and our staff are actually the disruptors. Yeah. And when I think about the pace of change, it is all about disruption. We used to talk about change being the norm. Disruption is the norm now. And we don't need to step away from it. We actually really need to embrace it. Yeah. And if we can embrace that disruption, I think that's going to stand our students in good stead, our researchers in good stead, and actually put AUT and New Zealand much more on the map for leading in the technology space.
Yeah. What do you think the utopian learning experience looks like in 2025?
Oh, wow, that's a huge question. Someone posed to me, what is the biggest stumbling block in terms of students really having the experience they want at university? And unfortunately, it's actually the timetabling system. So in terms of a utopian experience, I think it's orchestrating how you want to learn when you want to learn. So it's about education where you are, when you are, rather than the traditional construct of buildings and timetables.
Yeah. And how do you think about technology as it relates to the learning experience and educating people that can't be here? There's been a lot of talk about, online universities and the future of kind of education. How do you think about that, and what do you think that looks like?
So before I came to AUT for this role, I worked in Australia. I worked at Deakin University, which has a very big online presence. About a third of the students that study at Deakin are off-campus students. It is an education model. It suits some people, but what we found was that whilst online is a delivery mode, you can't get away from the fact that there needs to be some sort of face-to-face.
Exactly.
So we ended up I was Dean of Engineering there. We ended up in my engineering school actually looking at intensives. So we bring those off-campus students on campus for a period of time, 1 or 2 weeks, and they get that cohort opportunity to work together, collaborate together, because I think that's still very much a part of what's necessary for the social fabric as well as the education.
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot to be learned during, just through the social and the connections of people, right? Yeah.
And you can see that here now. You know, we're right in the middle of the campuses, people wandering around,
happy people, And what are some examples of future-focused tech projects that AUT is involved with today?
We've got a really big initiative on AI. So we realised that as a university, AI was being looked at in all sorts of different pockets, in all sorts of different areas, cuts across virtually everything the world is heading into. So we started an AI initiative, and that was really to pool all of that expertise together so that we could operate as a thought leader, if you like, so that we could have expertise not only in the traditional computer science, but in data analytics, in health analytics, and all of these different areas. So that's certainly one area in the tech space that we're working towards.
Yeah. And how are some examples of graduates that have really excelled after leaving AUT in the technology space?
Yeah, there's a lot of different examples. I was talking to someone earlier today who was mentioning a former graduate of ours. I won't mention his name, but he was in our communications school actually, and he went on, worked for the Herald. He was on the tech desk at the Herald. He's now one of the leading sort of orators, one of the leading thought leaders around that whole tech futures space in New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your advice for companies, trying to secure the best talent? Because there's so much great talent coming out of, AUT, and, talent is so competitive anywhere in the world. But I feel like in New Zealand, I spend most of my time in the US, and, there's a lot of talent there. But here, it's just so competitive because there aren't as many of these, really top world-class universities like AUT. In the US, obviously, you have more than that. So what are your thoughts on, how companies can actually attract the best people?
I think I'll answer the question perhaps in a bit of a roundabout way by saying the best way that industry in general can engage with universities, I think, are around three different things. I call them the 3 T's.
Okay.
So the first one is technology transfer. So how is it organisations can open up the technology we have within the university? The next one is about knowledge transfer.
Yes.
How can companies, businesses, organisations untap the knowledge we have in our student base, but also in our academic base? Our world-leading professors here at AUT. How can business get the opportunity to that? And the third T is that technology. Is the talent transfer. So how can they engage with our student body right the way through that undergraduate and postgraduate time that a student is here to make sure that they've actually got a pipeline of talent when those graduates leave. So rather than just coming and knocking on our door at graduation time or towards the end of a program, my suggestion is that organisations get involved as early as they possibly can. Get on campus, set some projects up, get to know our students, get to know our staffs.
That's great
Maybe
advice,
think about sponsoring in terms of offering scholarships or some remuneration around internships, exactly right, so that they can get to know on both parts, because it's very much like a marriage, on both sides. Both parties get an opportunity to look at the future. The other thing is, of course, the students that we're getting now they want to have a lot of choice as well. So they really want to check out the employer that they're going into.
Yeah.
So I can't really think of a better opportunity to get engaged early.
And it's more genuine, right? If a company works with you, if a company comes to you and just says, we want the best people in the world, then it's like, no, well, we've been working with this company for 5 years. We're probably going to feed them that way.
That's right.
Conversely, what should these companies be thinking about in terms of the skills that they essentially, that they're going to need in the future, next 5-10 years? What should they be looking for in these people that they're hiring?
I think it's really about creative problem solvers. I think it's about, I used that term, those 3 words earlier about creativity, design and innovation. I think if you've got problem solvers that can draw on those 3 strands, that's going to set up any organisation for the future.
Okay.
People that can collide the technology and the creative spaces together in one and solve problems that we don't yet know what we're going to be facing, I think that's going to stand any organisation in great stead. And I really think that that's what AUT is trying to develop through our courses and through our research.
Absolutely. During a session this morning, somebody touched on STEM with arts on the end. They were saying that that's
STEM.
STEM.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And how do you encourage creative problem solvers? How do you make them? How are they made?
I think it's about giving students ideas, but allowing them to develop their own skill set. I think that the role of the academic has changed. I think we're now very much the facilitators of learning rather than being the sage on the stage where we try and tip information out of our heads into the heads of students. It's about empowering students. It's about giving students choice. Obviously, there needs to be some framework and some boundaries and some principles that students need to work to in order that we can validate their education. But I think it's really about just giving them the opportunities that perhaps in the past they won't have had. That has to be the future.
What is creativity?
What is creativity? Wow, that's a big question. I think creativity is being able to think with an unbounded mind, really comprehend and consider the whole of the world and come up with the solution to problems that others just can't comprehend.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, guys. It's been an honour, and thank you so much again for hosting us today. It's
absolutely pleasure.
Very much appreciated.
Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you so much to the viewers for tuning in. Thank you so much to Callaghan Innovation as well for sponsoring today's session, and we look forward to seeing you a bit later in the day at the next Tech Week TV session. So stay with us. Thank you.